Welcome to Sew with Mrs. Herbert. In this episode, we'll be pinning the skirt pattern onto our fabric following the cutting layout, cutting out our skirt, and transferring markings. Here's page 1 of our pattern guide sheet, and I've enlarged it so it's easier for you to see. So this quadrant is one page. Here's another, and here's the fourth. So let's take a look at the enlargement. I'm making view D. So as I look at all of this, come over here, there are 8 pieces given. And for views A and B, I need piece 1. Piece 2 is for A and B, A and B, A and B. So here we are. I need piece 5 for view D, piece 6 for view D, piece 7, and piece 8. So 5, 6, 7, 8. So those are the pieces I'll be getting out. And remember that although they come all folded up and all together in a big sheet, I'll be cutting those apart between the pieces and not on the cutting line. Okay, let's look at the next quadrant, the upper right corner of our pattern guide sheet. And I love what they've done. This is much updated from years past. They've got more details, and that's basically because few of you have a sewing class, and so they're trying to teach you more on the pattern guide sheet. So there's quite a bit to read here. I encourage you to do that. I've talked to you and taught you about a lot of this, so please do review it. But notice wherever it's numbered, they've got a picture of it up here. So lengthening or shortening, what that is, our straight of grain, place on fold, and then here the double lines for lengthening or shortening. Number 6 is showing you our seam allowance is 5/8 of an inch. Here's a notch. We've got multiple sizes to cut, so choose the line that's for the size you're using. This is showing you tailor tacks for a dart. We will be doing that. And then 10 is showing you what the printed side of the fabric up, printed side down. That's 11. 12 a star, 13 an asterisk. 14, it says ease, stitch, or gather. Loosen needle tension slightly with right side up, stitch 5/8 of an inch from the edge using a long stitch. Stitch again 1/4 of an inch away in the seam allowance. So if you are stay stitching, you just need one of those. If you were gathering, you'd need both rows of those. And number 15 is showing you a narrow hem. Number 16 is showing you a seam finish. Number 17, sometimes it'll say to grade after the interfacing. See how this is trimmed narrower? So that's an example. Let's go to 18. Stay stitching. Notice they've got 2 arrows here. We start at the neckline, or in this case, it's the side of our skirt, and we stitch toward the center. We don't backstitch, but we cut our threads, and then we stitch from the other side toward the center, just like the arrows show. And that's important because this curve is a bias, and it keeps the threads from coming unstitched or stretching out along that curve. Here's 19, showing you cutting the layers a little bit, one shorter than another. That helps with things laying flat. And then trimming a corner, trimming an inside curve, trimming an outside curve. And here we have a picture of our facing and then understitching our facing. I do, as I said, encourage you to read it all and study the pictures. Let's determine which cutting layout we need. This one says A and B, interfacing, and then here's C and D. E, and then here it mentions interfacing for C and D. So we need, my fabric is 60 inches wide, so I need this cutting layout. Now what you'll notice, it says here's the abbreviation for selvages. We've got the fabric, here's a fold, we've got it folded, but not all the way in half. So we're folding it just wide enough for the skirt pieces to fit. So obviously the waist isn't going to take very much space. You need more width for the hemline. So we fold it in half enough for pieces 5 and 6 to fit. And then here you see 7 and 8. Notice the shading. So you've got the right side and then wrong side. So they're showing you a single layer. You're taking that facing piece, pinning it on, cutting half, folding it over, cutting the other half. But very similar to what we did with the apron, we're going to fold this in half and pin that piece on the fold. When we cut this skirt piece out, number 5, that will clear away this piece of scrap fabric right there and there so that we can actually put this one on the fold as well. So we'll fold it, put 5 and 6, cut those out, fold it, put 7 and 8. Now, once we've done that, we need to cut the interfacing. So that's where interfacing for C, D, and E. So we're using 7 and 8, those same pieces. So we'll cut those out, up here, cut them out, mark anything that needs to be transferred, unpin them, and then put them on our interfacing piece and repeat that same process, cut it. And then we'll go from there. Pattern pieces 5 and 6 are used for the skirt in 3 lengths. C, D, and E are the views, and we're doing view D. So right here is where the hem will be for view D, and here it is on this piece. So I'm going to cut off this pattern below that line so that I don't have this excess in the way when I'm pinning the pattern onto the fabric. My 60-inch wide fabric was folded in half on the bolt. When I unfolded it, I could see such a crease that I went ahead and pressed the crease out so that when I refold it this width, there's not a crease underneath going down the side of the skirt. I hope that makes sense. But I put this piece of paper here to show you, even though it's black and it's hard to see on the camera, it is folded up to this point. Now, you've seen me pin and cut out 2 previous projects. So in this one, I'm just going to do a quick review. Before I pinned on, I marked my notches for the size that I'm cutting. And in this case, I'm cutting a size 16. I did that on pieces 5 and 6. When I pinned it on, it said place on fold. So this outer line is exactly on the fold on both 5 and 6. Here's the place on fold symbol for that one. And it's turned upside down, but here it is for this one. The arrow on the other end is cut off because it went the length for the long skirt. When I cut, I'm going to cut clockwise with the back of my hand against the line I'm going to cut. We'll start here and go this way. It's okay to shift and turn things, but just make sure the back of your hand, and I'll show you with my scissors, back of my hand, start right here. When I get to the notches, I'll cut out so that they're little points and then keep going. So I'll go ahead and cut this out and then I'll refold the top side so that I can pin on the facing pieces. Your pattern guide sheet shows cutting out pieces 7 and 8 as single layers. Getting to the fold, flipping it over, that's just too much work. So instead, we took this part, folded it over. So now I have a fold and the pattern piece actually says center fold, place on fold. And the same thing for here. So I've got the edges exactly on the fold. I've pinned where my notches are. I've pinned all the way around. closer than usual because I've got curves. I'm cutting out piece 16, so my pins are within that. I'll move that one up a little bit. This one too. So I'll go ahead and, earlier I said to cut clockwise, and that's if you're right-handed. But if you're left-handed, you'd be cutting counterclockwise in order to have the back of your hand, against the cutting line. So I'll cut these pieces out, and then I'll repeat the process, putting these pieces onto my interfacing. And the picture for that was very similar. It'll look similar to this, or just folding it in half. But I'll also have those pieces cut out when we come back. I'll have this cut, and then these cut both from my interfacing. My facings are cut out. My interfacing is cut out. I unpinned it, put them back together as a package. So I've got facing and matching interfacing together. I can put those aside now. And the last thing to do is marking. Now all I see that we need to transfer is the dots, or are the dots, for this dart. And we're following the Taylor tacks. Here it says number 9. It tells you what to do. Here's the picture. And it's just what we've done in the past. So I'm going to mark this, hoping you can see it better. There are 3 different darts drawn on the paper for the different sizes. And so I'm marking in yellow. I think that shows up a little bit. That's the dart that we need to transfer because that it says on the pattern size 16, 18. So 16 and 18 share the same dart. So just as we've done with other Taylor tacks, I've got my thread doubled, and I usually, as I said, would use thread that would match, but I'm using contrasting so that you can see it, because if I used black thread, you wouldn't even know I did anything. So here on this dart, I have a dot that's 5/8 inch from the edge. So I'll go ahead and make that Taylor tack. I have a dot at the point of the dart. I'm going to go ahead and stitch this one before I pull the paper up. So I have another dot that's, again, 5/8 of an inch from the edge, but a little over because these will be folded together. So when they're sewn, we'll be putting these 2 dots together. We'll have it point toward the one. And when we sew it, it ends up like a little arrow. And so we're giving shape to our skirt. We have now marked all that's needed on this. I don't see any other dots. We've got notches and they're cut out, so that's okay. So in our next episode, we'll begin sewing our skirt.